Thank you. Good morning again. Do we have a Zoom audience too? We do. Hello to all of you out there in the Zoom world. I don't know who's watching, but Helen, if you're there, hello, and Kate, Kit, everyone else, and to all of you who are here. This is the beginning of the Advent season as we see this very modern version of an Advent wreath. Actually, I kind of like it. And the Advent season is a season of preparation where we prepare to welcome the Christ Spirit to be born again in us. It starts with hope, and traditionally the first Sunday of Advent has always been about hope. But some years ago in Unity, it was decided we should talk about faith instead. So hope is the gateway to faith. So the question then is, how do we get to faith? How do we get there? We begin with hope, of course. Hope is a sign directing us beyond the appearances that we see, directing us to faith. And then once we find some faith, faith is a bridge between where we are now and where we want to be. In faith, we allow each moment to unfold, trusting in the wisdom of the Christ within. That is, we've expressed our faith, but we look around us and things don't look quite right, so we want to doubt. But faith is about not focusing on appearances, but trusting and letting things unfold, knowing that things are going to go as they go. We don't have control. From faith, then, we commit ourselves to trusting God, to trusting that as long as you are open, your mind and your heart, that whatever is happening now is for your good. Therefore, nothing is bad or good as such. It just is. It's just part of your journey home. So what does this look like? Well, it looks like non-judgment. Something happens, and you may judge it as bad, but you don't really know. All you know is it's happening. So step back from your opinion and let things unfold. See where they go. Allow your inner voice, the voice of the Christ within, to inform you, to direct you, to show you the way. As I've often spoke before, it is the practice of coming to know. That is, something happens, and as humans, we think we know what it is and what it means, but we don't. Faith is about stepping back and practicing coming to know, knowing that, okay, I don't really know why this is happening or what's going on, but I'm going to step back and I'm going to allow myself to come to know. I'm going to practice faith, and I will be shown what this is for. So how do we practice this? Well, for me, it often has to do with disappointment. I'm expecting something to happen a certain way, and it doesn't. At first, I might feel disappointed, sad, angry, resentful, whatever. My emotional reaction, then, is an opportunity to heal those emotions. I heal them first by not blaming somebody else for how I feel. Not blaming myself either, but just accepting them as my own and then embracing them. I acknowledge them, accept them, embrace them. I refuse to judge myself for what I feel or to judge anyone else. It may take a little bit of time to get to that place, but that's where I'm headed. It's hard sometimes to get to that place of not judging, of accepting, of embracing. But for me, I usually get there. I like to get there faster sometimes, but, the process is the process. Once I'm there, I'm no longer dependent on external expectations to meet my needs. Example, many years ago, we're talking 30 years ago, over 30 years, 32 years ago, I wanted a life partner. And what I did is I envisioned what I wanted, and then I stopped wanting. because the problem is wanting, is it just brings you more wanting. I pictured instead having. And I find myself just happy being alone. I was happy. And when I reached that state of letting go, of being completely happy just being alone, but still envisioning being with someone, she came into my life. That's just how it works. When you let go and you feel like you don't need it anymore, that's when it happens. Recently, I have to practice right now this whole thing. My daughter's car had to be taken in for repairs. My 22-year-old daughter moved back in with us a few months ago. That's a challenge. Some of you have been there, done that, right? Well, her car, which we still owe a lot of money on, had a few problems, about $3,300 worth of problems. I can't say I like it, but I accepted it. I accepted that that was the cost and that the money would come. Fortunately, I have a big enough credit card to handle it for now, but still needs to be paid, right? Plus interest. And I don't know exactly how it will work out, how much my daughter will be able to contribute, but I know it'll all be well. That's just how I see it. I feel that. Because when I heard the price, what it finally got to, because it kept getting there, things kept going wrong as they're repairing it, I'd have reactions, but then I say, it's okay, it'll be okay, it's all right. So I just trust that it's going to be okay, and it's going to be finished. They're going to finish it up, and she should get it back on Monday. All right. I trust the process. There are 4 kinds of faith, or what we call faith, from my point of view. First kind, a person doesn't believe things can work out. In other words, they have negative faith. Things are going to go wrong, so I might as well just prepare for it, right? We've all had that, and we certainly know people who practice that on a regular basis. Second kind of faith. The person says they have faith, but they don't really deal with their own emotions or lack of faith. This is really a kind of hope disguised as faith. I'm going to sit here and watch my TV and hope it all works out in some magical way. This is also called magical thinking. Third, there's religious faith. This is a childlike faith in an anthropomorphic being or divine person who fixes things for us. Most of Christianity believes this. In this faith, we often must believe the right things and be able to please God in order to have our prayers answered. And then fourth is a knowing faith. This is an understanding of universal law, that when we place God first, whether you see God as a person or a spirit or impersonal divine energy, that when we see God as source and relied fully on that source, miracles happen. A knowing faith knows that whatever we truly desire is already ours. And so we embrace the fact that what we pray for is already here. And from Mark 11, verses 22 to 24, and Jesus answered them, "Have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, 'Be taken up and thrown into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." In a more modern day scripture, this comes from A Course in Miracles, and this one has always intrigued me. I've always loved this passage, so I want to share it with you. No one is healed through double messages. If you only wish to be healed, you heal. Your single purpose makes this possible. But if you're afraid of healing, then it cannot come through you. The only thing that is required for a healing is a lack of fear. The fearful are not healed and cannot heal. This does not mean that all conflict must be gone forever from your mind to heal, because if it was, there'd be no need for healing then. But it does mean, if only for an instant, you love without attack. An instant is sufficient. Miracles wait not on time. What it's telling me is that if you can find that place where you've driven out all fear and all you feel is love, that's sufficient and miracles happen. It doesn't mean that you've permanently arrived at that place, because if you've permanently arrived at that place, then you're enlightened and you probably don't need to be here at all. So it's an instant. It's getting there to a place of peace. And then if the worry comes up again, working your way back to that place of peace, of unconditional love, where there's no fear. To love without attack is to accept and to embrace the moment. To accept and embrace everything that is happening, everything that you feel, everything that you think, even your doubts, and to step back and allow Spirit to lead you. That's what I did a few years ago when I flew to Tucson, Arizona out of Grand Rapids. It was important to me to get to Arizona that day so I could hike in my favorite canyon the next morning. If you've ever been to Tucson, it's called Pima Canyon, and it's every time I go there, I hike in that canyon. But the problem was my flight from Grand Rapids to Dallas was canceled. It's Grand Rapids to Dallas to Tucson, and because of bad weather in Dallas. So I was going to have to spend the night in Grand Rapids or go home to East Lansing and come back in the morning and fly out. And I really didn't want to do that. But I didn't panic. I employed faith, and I acted on it. I told myself, I'm going to make it to Tucson somehow tonight, and if for some reason I don't, I'm still okay. So I went to the next gate, where a flight was boarding for Chicago, same airline, and I asked if there was a flight from Chicago to Tucson that I might connect with later. The guy shook his head no and went about his business. But then I didn't accept that answer because he didn't even check. So I asked him to check, just in case. So he looked, and he was surprised because there was one. So we changed my ticket around, and I boarded the flight to Chicago. And I got on the plane knowing that I had about an hour layover, actually half-hour layover, to make it to the next flight. So it was going to be close, but I could do it. And all went well until we reached the area near O'Hare. Then the pilot said, we're being directed to another runway. And we spent another 20 minutes in the air, circling the airport, till we finally landed. Once out of the plane, I had but a couple minutes to get to the other gate. And as I sprinted there, I arrived just as they were about to close the doors. I was the last person on the plane, but I made it, and I hiked at Pima Canyon the next day. On the way back, on Saturday, I ran into the same thing. Again, Dallas was having problems, and so I couldn't get my flight from Tucson to Dallas. There were delays. But I really wanted to get back because I was supposed to speak at Unity in the morning. So just in case, though, I called Chuck to say, Chuck, I think I'm going to make it, but I might not. I just wanted you to know. And so I negotiated again with a staff member. She put me on a different flight, and I did make it back, and it turned into quite an adventure. I got back to Grand Rapids just before midnight. I booked a room at a hotel on 28th Street, and in the hallway on the way to my room, I was propositioned by a professional. And then I put my stuff in the room, and my son and his wife happened to be in town because it was his birthday, so I went down the street a little ways to a bar to help him celebrate his birthday. Had a good sleep that night, woke up in the morning, and made it to Unity and gave my talk. It all worked out. No, I did not accept the proposition, in case you were wondering. Faith is confidence, trust, and knowing. Not in your little ego, but in the power that animates you. the power that manifests as the Christ within you. It's real. This doesn't mean everything turns out exactly as you want it to. It means it turns out in the best way possible for your highest good. There's a difference sometimes. So let go of fear. And the way you let go of it is just to allow yourself to feel it and breathe. The way to let go of anything is to stop resisting it. You can let yourself feel anything. It doesn't mean you have to act on it. You can just be with it. You can feel the worst kind of fear or depression or stress and sit with it and breathe if you allow yourself to. And then every feeling like that, as I've said many times, every negative feeling has an expiration date. It will pass, but you have to go through it. You don't get to drink it away or eat it away or do anything else to make it. You can do that, but it's still there. So just be with it and know that no matter how much you feel, how negative it is, or how unfortunate it might feel to you, or unpleasant, that you can make it through. I have found the same thing to be true with physical pain. And I'm sure some of you have had more physical pain than I have, but I've certainly had my experiences with intense physical pain. And I found the same thing work, to just be with it, to just accept it. As they say in some movie I watched, the trick is not minding. That is, not focusing your mind on how much it hurts, whether it's emotional or physical, but being with it, accepting it, embracing it, and you move through. That's how it works for me anyway. So by not resisting it and moving through it and keeping my vision in mind of where I want to be, that's how I practice faith. Declare what you want, then care not if you receive it. You have to let go. You are not in control of the universe. If you work at it, you can control your thoughts, and you can manage your emotions. You are not in control of other people's thoughts and feelings, so why try? Since you aren't in control anyway, let go. Makes sense, doesn't it? Trust in God. Trust in the law of the universe, and know that all will be well. So I invite you over this next week that whatever shows up in your life is to step back from your experience and observe yourself and determine what it is that you truly want, and to have faith as you move in that direction, that you accept and embrace wherever you are and whatever's going on, and you practice true faith and know that you are on the path to your highest good. And so it is. Thank you, everyone.